welcome. I'm Antonina Antosha and you are watching Head to Head with UATV. The modern system of liberal trade policies, dispute resolution and multilateralism has prevented the outbreak of wars between great powers. Destroying that system could mean the revival of actual trade wars and gunboat diplomacy. These were the words of European Council President Donald Tusk addressed to US President Donald Trump as the threat of a trade war between allies grows more real. To talk more about the future developments of this situation, we're joined in the studio today by Ivan Us. He's an expert at the Ukrainian Prism Foreign Policy Council. Hello and thank you for joining.
Hello.
So how could just one figure, an ally, meaning Donald Trump, be such a threat to the world trade policy?
So, we should understand a simple fact that starting from the probably end of the Second World War, the main idea at the world was the trade liberalism.
Right.
And actually, this idea at that time was normal, because if you look to the history, in the end of the 20s, at the beginning of the 30s, it was a big wave of protectionist policy from majority of countries, first of all from the United States of America, and that trade wars that existed at that time led to creation of a lot of trade blocs that have a war against each other, and then at the end of the 30s, that trade wars turned into the real war, into the Second World War. That's why after the end of the Second World War, analyzing the reason why it happened, the global community, I mean the leading countries, decided that we should change our policy in favor of more liberalization.
All right.
So, and in that time, several main structures had been created. First of all, it's that time general agreement about tariff and tax. In the year of 1995, it was turned into the World Trade Organization, WTO. So the main idea was liberalization. The year 2001, after a terroristic attack that was made in New York, all power understands that for preserving stability in the world, they should deepen liberalization, and they start the Doha Round WTO. So since 2001, liberalization was a main topic. But in the year 2016, Mr. Trump won the election in the United States of America. He won it under serious protectionist slogan that America for Americans. It's demonstration of the fact that the United States of America will close its borders for foreign trade.
But it didn't.
Yeah, but when he came to power, he started to realize it. A lot of things that he made, absolutely protectionistic steps. For example, his idea that the United States of America decided to leave talks about Trans-Pacific trade zone, about transatlantic zone, because I try to remind that in the year 2016, so before election, we talk a lot about the global trade deal between United States of America and EU, so transatlantic free trade area or free trade zone, and everyone wait for this deal. But when Trump came to power, he said any talks about transatlantic, any talks about trans-Pacific trade zone, that's all. So in all his steps, he tried to demonstrate that the epoch of liberalism is over. And now the world, leading countries, so that all that steps that had been made since the year 1945, so after the end of the Second War, appears under the question. Because this protectionism rhetoric that realized in his policy really created big menace to the whole world. Because everyone think before that we should liberalize, and that is normal way. And if we look at a lot of newspapers, a lot of magazine journals of many countries, during all that period, they constantly talked about liberalization, about necessity to decrease trade barriers and so on and so forth. But now they understand.
If what Trump says is going to be actually implemented, which would also need the Congress to back Trump up, and a lot of other procedures, but nevertheless, if that is actually implemented in real life, does that mean that the international trade is over?
Of course, it's not over, but really, even in this month, we saw really interesting steps. For example, on the 1st of July in Tokyo, it was a big meeting between the main countries of Trans-Pacific region. It was Japan, it was China, it was India, ASEAN countries, Australia, New Zealand. So countries that have a lot of contradictions and problems between themselves, but they decided to have this meeting and said that we could unite into the trade blocs that expected before, but without the United States of America. As for me, it was a very strong signal to the United States that if they preserve such a protectionist policy as they do now, they can face the situation when the whole world will be against the United States of America. Yes, the United States of America is a large country and strong country, but I'm not sure that that will be in their favor if the whole world, if Asia countries, if European countries, because when he made a statement that the European Union for them is the main enemy that he made several days ago, of course it's shock for Europeans because they think that they're allies. And now we see, at least in his rhetoric, and probably his rhetoric theoretically can be implemented, that it's a big menace and that we return to the situation that world saw in the end of the 20s, beginning of 30s, with those trade conflicts. Of course, the United States of America is not the only player in the global trade. Their share in the global trade less than 10%, actually. But the influential player...
Let's talk about another influential player, which is Russia. I mean, Trump could be punished for just rhetorics, right? For just his words. The whole country could be punished. And such a powerful country, such a powerful economy as the United States of America could be left out of the trade war arena around the globe. Whereas Russia is being a real aggressor and actually attacking the countries situated on the border. Why not do that to Russia?
So actually, now, of course, the main probably news of July, it's meeting between the United States, Trump and Putin. But first of all, we should understand that the share of the United States of America in the global trade, global economy is really very large. Approximately 25% in the global GDP, in global trade is less than 10%. But Russia's share is approximately 1.5 or 2%, not more. In trade, it's even lower. For example, export from such country as Singapore is larger than export from Russia. We can imagine the territory of Singapore is 20,000 times smaller than Russia territory. Nevertheless, Singapore sell more goods, not services, goods I try to emphasize, than Russia. So that's why Russia's role in the world economy is not so large. This meeting, controversial meeting, because in the United States of America we saw the reaction, and in nearest days it will be meeting between Congress and Trump, where Congressman asks Trump to explain what was in this meeting and actually what it was. Because really it was a meeting between two not equal partners, because if the United States of America and USSR, we can say that it was practically equal.
Agreed.
The economic might of USA is much bigger compared to the economic might of Russia. Furthermore, Russia economy based on the export of energy sources, so-called the 27th group in the global trade, but the United States of America actually planned to increase the export of the same goods. That's why for them Russia is probably main competitor. And when Trump says that EU is his main enemy, according to their plans to increase, seriously increase trade in this area, probably Russia for them should be main enemy in trade area, not in other areas. Then really all those last Trump stamps and statements, they undermine the WTO. Actually, Mr. Trump said that we should review the position of the World Trade Organization, the future of this organization, and I don't think...
It's not the only organization Mr. Trump wants to review the future of, to be honest.
Yes, but if we're talking about trade, of course, the World Trade Organization is the main structure. And of course, whole world that, as I said, builds this organization, and this organization, let's be frank, exists in favor of this world. I mean, leading countries. And when they saw Trump's steps, they analyzed situation not in the nearest future, but for larger periods. And they can help understanding simple fact that it's not in their favor. That's why, you know, after this meeting of Mr. Trump and Mr. Putin, I can say that I have a feeling that Mr. Trump made another step in favor of impeachment, in favor of repeating the story of Mr. Nixon. And everything could be, because really the steps that for him looks normal in strategical American, as for me, point of view, it's not in favor of the United States of America. So, of course, we will wait for reaction. We will wait for results of that. Now we see at this moment reaction of some politician. For example, his former competitor for the president chair, Clinton, made a statement that Mr. Trump, what team are you playing? So we have this question for you. So after this press conference, we are not sure is that you play for America, and from strategical interests of the United States, actually, I absolutely agree with Ms. Hillary Clinton.
What's Ukraine's place in the world trade structure?
So our place is extremely small. Our share is 0.3%. It's our actually share.
That's really small.
Very extremely small. But first of all, we should understand that even before the conflict in the 2014, our share was not seriously large. We have never even half.
But we could have had growth, and now with having the war going on in the east of Ukraine, that kind of stumbles us.
Yes, it's prevented us from growth, but I couldn't say that it's made a dramatic.
Are we demonstrating any growth at all?
Yes.
In which industries?
So even if we look at the statistics of this year, so I looked at the fresh figures from our customs, the half of the results. So we have 12, at least at terms of export, we have 12% growth. Furthermore, ironically, if the leading industry in our country is agriculture, in comparison with the previous year or half a year, because we compare half 2018 with half 2017. So we have in trade growth at 12%, but in agriculture it was decreased at 2%. So the main our industries, it's metallurgy, it's machinery industry, because we like to say, or at least some people who critically minded about Ukrainian economy said that we sell only steel, we sell only agriculture, that's all. No, we sell a lot of, not a lot, but at least large quantity of products from machinery industry, from chemical industry, from wood industry, not timber, but some other manufacturers. So in transport area, so actually one of the main success of Ukraine of last at least decade, it's creation of a lot of plants that build copper wire for cars. It's spare part for car, but our annual export to EU of this product is approximately $1 billion. Actually, I said about 12% growth in export to whole world. If we look at trade with European Union, the growth is approximately 19%. Even larger.
That's a lot.
Yes, because yes, we have a problem that starts actually before the conflict in 2013. Of course, in 2015 and 2014 and 15 we have some decrease. In 16 it was practically stabilization. In 17 it was growth, and now we still have growth. So 17-18 demonstrated growth because it demonstrates the fact that countries start to be adopted to current reality, and now at least the figures of 2018 made me optimistic about our trade result at the end of this year.
Let's stay optimistic.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for coming and
you.
sharing this info. That was Ivan Uz. He's an expert at the Ukrainian Prism Foreign Policy Council. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more.